So on this channel, we've made lots of breads and muffins and all kinds of baked goods, but we have yet to try tortillas, homemade. So let's see if a couple easy ingredients will actually make the best, most flexible, delicious flour tortillas. Let's get started. Okay, to start off, I went ahead and got 552 grams of all-purpose flour. The actual recipe I'm using is Cooking con Claudia. You can check her video out on YouTube, so I'm just gonna try that out and see. And then you want 113 grams of softened butter. So you really wanna be able to press in it, and that's how you know it's good and soft. To our 552 grams of all-purpose flour in a large mixing bowl, I am going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. She said to taste, but I'm just going to do the recipe exactly like she does. Next, you're going to add your butter, but make sure to mix all your dry ingredients together first, which is something I obviously forgot to do. But it all worked out in the end though. Once your dry ingredients are well combined, add in your cubed butter and work it into the flour. You're basically treating it kind of like you're making a pie crust and using your fingers, or I guess you could use a pastry cutter, but you're just breaking the butter into small pieces until it evenly distributes throughout the flour mixture. The next thing I want to get is 2 cups of water. Now we're going to microwave this for 1 minute. Once you've microwaved your water, it's time to slowly add it to the dry ingredients and the butter. The warm water will start melting the butter and you'll notice a shaggy dough beginning to form. Looking back, I don't think my water was quite warm enough, and because of that, my butter didn't melt as much as it probably should have. I've seen several people recommend using water that is as hot as your hands can comfortably handle. Obviously, you don't want to burn yourself, but I do think having very warm water does make a difference here. Once you have a sticky dough, transfer it to a clean work surface and start kneading. One thing she emphasized was not adding any extra flour at this point, even though the dough feels sticky at first. After about a minute of kneading, it really does start to come together, and I found this to be completely true. It became much less sticky surprisingly quickly. It took me about 5 to 7 minutes of kneading before the dough reached the point where I could press on it and it would slowly spring back. So just be prepared, your arms are definitely going to get a little bit of workout. Next, you're going to divide the dough into individual balls. The easiest way to do this is by pinching off portions of the dough between your thumb and pointer finger. The original recipe called for 90-gram dough balls, but next time I think I'm going to make mine closer to 50 or 60 grams. And you'll see later in the video, the 90-gram tortillas ended up just a little bit thicker than I was hoping for. If I had a much larger pan or cooking surface, they probably would have worked just fine, but for this step, I think a smaller amount would have been better. It just would have rolled out and fit better in the pan. Once you've formed your dough balls, lightly rub a little butter on the tops just to keep them from drying out. Then cover them with some plastic wrap, a clean kitchen towel, and let them rest for about 15 minutes before starting to roll them out. Okay, so the dough balls have been resting for about 15 minutes. I have my rolling pin, I have my extra flour, I have my pan that's been heating for about 5 minutes, dry on medium-low heat. It's my great-grandmother's cast iron pan, actually. So I will be using that. And then I also have my bread basket ready to go with a towel to keep everything good and warm. Now, I do not have a tortilla press. I know that you can use those. I'm just gonna roll it out like she did. For this next part, you're going to want a pretty good amount of counter space because it's time to roll out the tortillas. You can absolutely use a tortilla press, but for flour tortillas, I decided to do what the recipe creator did and roll them out by hand. The process is really simple. Just roll the dough, flip it, then keep rolling and keep flipping until they are the thickness that you want. My first couple were definitely a little too thick. I don't think they cooked quite the way I wanted. Part of that was because I was limited by the size of my pan, so I couldn't really make them much larger. However, I do think the process got easier because I realized that while one tortilla was cooking, I would roll out the next one, and it turned out to be a really efficient system. Each tortilla only took about 1 minute per side to cook over the medium heat, so having the next one ready just kept things moving along. As they finished cooking, I'd place them in the bread basket I made and kept them covered with a towel, and they actually stayed warm for a surprisingly long time. One thing that really surprised me was how easy this dough was to roll out. It didn't take much effort at all. It rolled very smoothly. However, getting perfectly round tortillas is definitely a skill. As you can see, mine were not exactly circles, but that's okay because they still tasted fantastic. I have a feeling that getting really round tortillas is just something that takes practice. This was also the point where I realized I wanted my tortillas to be a little bit thinner, so I went ahead and cut all the remaining dough balls in half. It did add a little extra time, but both my family and I preferred the thinner tortillas. Since the original dough balls were about 90 grams, these ended up being about 45 grams each. Looking back, I think somewhere around 55 to 60 grams would be the perfect size for my family, and that's probably what I'll make next time. Occasionally the dough would stick to my rolling pin, but it really wasn't a big deal. I just dusted it with a little extra flour whenever I needed to, and then that kept everything rolling smoothly without creating any creases. Overall, I was really happy with how these turned out. They puffed up nicely, developed beautiful brown spots, and honestly exceeded my expectations for my first time ever making homemade flour tortillas. Now from this point on, it really is just repeat the same process. Cook one tortilla while rolling out the next. In the end, I made 17 tortillas, and the whole process took me about 30 minutes. I honestly think it would go even faster next time now that I know the workflow and I know exactly how thick I want to make them. I do want to take a moment and just say I'm always looking for recipes to test, so if you have a favorite family recipe or something you've been wanting to try, let me know in the comments below. And if you're not already subscribed but you like videos like this, testing recipes and testing appliances, go ahead and smash that subscribe button so that you'll be notified for my next video. However, back to the tortillas. So coming up next, I'm going to do an actual taste test and show you if these crumble up nicely or not. And it'll just be my overall thoughts of this particular recipe. So stay tuned. Okay, so here they are, fresh off the griddle. I did end up making them smaller because I just felt like that particular pan was too small to make the big ones. But you're supposed to be able to crumble them up. Ah, look at that, they didn't break. And these are the smaller ones. Very exciting. Okay, I'm gonna taste this one. Yeah. Very good. I mean, they are better than store-bought. They taste fresh. They're legitimately good. I'm really happy because I have been avoiding tortillas for some random reason. I don't understand why, but I have been. So for them to taste as good as they do, I'm pretty impressed. Worth the time and effort? Absolutely, especially since I know what's in them. It does take a little bit of time. I don't feel like it's like, you know, just super quick. It did take me time. And I do think it would be easier if I had like my big griddle pan to do it, because I would be able to do like 2 at a time and do the bigger ones instead of having to cut them in half. But man, these are delicious. So highly recommend the recipe. I will show you what we're using these for dinner. Until next time, thanks, bye.